Don't you love it when news stories break when you're on vacation? Please excuse the quality of this video. I am away from my normal place, but I just had to report on this immediately. As some of you may remember, there was drama involving the band Cradle of Filth recently, where the keyboardist and guitarist suddenly left the band in the middle of a tour. They claimed that they were being severely underpaid and exploited, and they'd posted this contract online that was everyone agrees, even Cradle of Filth agrees, that it was horrible. But Dani Filth posted saying that the two of them were just drunk abusers who were causing problems behind the scenes and are now just, I don't know, trying to ruin the band or something. And when the story broke, a lot of people only looked at that or just reported on the underpaying part and were saying if they felt they weren't getting paid enough, just don't sign the contract. Why are you making this whole drama online? But I actually thought it was a much bigger deal than people were realizing. And it turns out some people who agreed with that are 5 former members of Cradle of Filth. That's right, the Court of Filth has expanded. We are now officially in the Avengers of Filth phase of this lawsuit. Former keyboardist Lindseay Schoolcraft, former guitarist Richard Shaw, former and longtime guitarist Paul Allendear, and a model who appeared in several of their music videos, Sasha Massacre, have joined Zoe Federoff and Ashok's lawsuit against Dani Filth and Oracle Management. I'm starting to think that they weren't abusers and Dani Filth was lying. So welcome back to another exciting episode of Court of Filth. Lindseay Schoolcraft was a fan-favorite keyboardist who was in the band from 2014 to 2020. Her exit was pretty dramatic, with both her and the band stating that it was due to personal mental health reasons, and the band wished her luck and they were on their way. But Lindseay had not been shy about how much stress and anxiety she was under while in the band. When the lawsuit had just went public and it was only Zoe and Ashok suing the band, Lindseay had posted saying,
"I've been asked a lot this past week as to why I haven't come out with the full story of what happened to me in my old band and the details around why I truly left versus the Band-Aid statement of mental health." Because at the time it was stated she just left for her own mental health. The reason I haven't fully spoken out yet is that if/when I do come forward, I will need legal representation and counseling, and in Canada that can cost me upwards of tens of thousands of dollars based on my case. I've sunken a lot of my business and personal finances into completing marketing my next album this year, so I don't have the financial means to fight this right now. Plus it will be a lot of reliving my trauma from gathering all the receipts, and I also don't have the mental capacity or energy to do that at the moment either. I know and believe my reason is also the reason as to why other members are not coming forward. The most abusive people in our industry hide behind their money and power, lawyers. They've spent decades building off of exploiting others everywhere in every which way they can. Something that is gruelingly exhausting to fight against when you exit with a broken spirit and low income, which makes the option of moving on in silence the most logical choice, even when your story is the truth and you have proof. I am really, really proud of Zoe and Ashok for breaking the silence, and to other past members and crew who have spoken up on the absolutely unethical work environment that band is. Please know I am better these days and thriving far away from that chaos. I came so close to losing my life back then, and unfortunately Zoe and Ashok had to lose a future child because of it. No one should have to tolerate any of this when desiring a dream of being a career musician and wanting to work in our industry. No one. I'm sure this opens the door to many more questions, those of which may be answered one day. Please know my silence isn't compliance. It never was. It has been practical and survival. Thank you.
Here is Lindseay in her own words.
They took advantage and they got into my head and truly made me believe that I was a nobody and I wasn't worth shit. And if I didn't, I think it wasn't just an exit from the band. I think it was an exit from the industry for a little bit too.
Yep.
Because I was going to take my life. Like I was just like, this is bad. This is really bad. And I don't feel like anyone respects me. And I have to save myself. No one's going to come rescue me. I have to do it for me. And that was the best decision I ever made for myself. And now I'm slowly coming back to it with like really good people in my corner. So the music industry isn't all bad. You just have to find the good ones and like cling on to them for dear life and treat them well.
Richard Shaw was the guitarist in Cradle of Filth from 2014 to 2022. He was replaced by Ashok, who was one of the originators of this lawsuit. And he specifically stated that he left the band because of a lot of drama and bullshit behind the scenes.
But when certain people are making decisions on your behalf and you think they're the wrong decisions, it's time to go. I've already got the imposter syndrome thing happening, and then when you've got a certain person saying, well, you're not going to work again. Literally, think about your family. You'll never work again if you leave this band, was the parting words by this person when I sent an email saying I'm going. And it's stuff like that where you think,
That's a dick move. It's a dick
That's
move.
just manipulation now. You're trying to guilt trip me, using my family to guilt trip me into staying.
Paul Allendear was the longtime guitarist for Cradle of Filth. He was in the band from 1992 to 1995, when he left briefly, and then he joined again from 1999 to 2014. He was there for a really long time, and when he left, there was really no word on it at all. Danny was just kind of like, oh yeah, he's not in the band anymore. His focus was elsewhere. And he's actually been really silent this whole time. I think him popping up on this lawsuit is the most surprising part of it. And Sasha Massacre is a music video model who appears in their videos to live deliciously and malignant perfection. And Dani Filth is a glittery dwarf. The lawsuit can be found here. It is all totally public, but you do need an account on this website to be able to see it. But lucky for you, I have one and I got it downloaded, so we're going to go over it right now. United States District Court, District of Arizona. Do not worry, I'm not going to read every single fucking page of this lawsuit. We're going to get to the most important parts. Zoe Fedorov Smerda, Marek Smerda, Richard Shaw, Paul Allendear, Sasha Baxter, and Lindsay Matheson versus Oracle Management, Daniel Lloyd Davey, Cradle of Filth Touring Limited, and Cradle of Filth LPP. This action arises out of the unauthorized use and ongoing commercial exploitation of all plaintiffs and images in merchandise. Unpaid royalties owed to Zoe and Ashok for live performances. Unpaid royalties owed to Zoe, Ashok, and Lindsay for their performances in musical sound recordings. The unauthorized use of Lindsay's copyrighted works by defendants. The disparagement of Zoe and Ashok following their discontinuation of involvement with defendants, unjust enrichment from Sasha Massacre's performance in music videos, and unjust enrichment from the commercial exploitation of Zoe and Ashok at in-person events, i.e. meet and greets. Prior to the events of this complaint, Zoe, Ashok, Lindsay, Paul, and Richard Shaw composed, recorded, and performed with Cradle of Filth extensively over many years. Throughout this time, plaintiffs never signed or executed any agreement with defendants regarding the use of plaintiffs' names, likenesses, and images on merchandise. I genuinely do not understand how people who'd been in a band, some for a decade, never came across a contract at any point. How is that even possible? Cradle of Filth created a wide variety of merchandise featuring all of the plaintiffs' names, likenesses, and images. Plaintiffs were not compensated for the use of their names, likenesses, and/or images in merchandise produced and sold by Cradle of Filth. The joke I told in one of my previous videos was 1000% accurate, where someone would join Cradle of Filth, go to a show that they're playing, see the merch booth with their face on it, and be like, oh, that's so cool, my face is on a t-shirt. And then they realize, do I get paid for that? Nope. Zoe, Ashok, Lindsay, Paul, Richard, together with Davey and Cradle of Filth, composed and contributed their performances to multiple commercially released sound recordings. Throughout this time, Zoe, Ashok, and Lindsay never signed or executed any agreement with Cradle regarding the performances by Zoe, Ashok, and Lindsay in collaborative sound recordings. They apparently never worked out a deal on how much they'd get paid for contributing music to the band, which, by the way, we went over before. A hired gun normally isn't writing music, but in Cradle of Filth, the hired guns are entirely writing the music, and Danny just writes his shitty goth poetry over it and then claims it for himself. Plaintiffs Ashok, Richard, and Lindsay were not compensated for their performances in sound recordings on the 2017 release. Ashok and Richard were not compensated for their performances in sound recordings on the 2021 release. See, Richard and Ashok were in the band for quite a while before Zoe ever joined. And oh, would you look at that? There were problems behind the scenes before she joined. Turns out it wasn't just her coming in and causing problems. Would you look at that? Ashok and Lindsay were not compensated for their performances in sound recordings on the 2023 release. Richard was compensated for his performances in sound recordings on the 2023 release by Cradle of Filth in the amount of £500. Jesus. Plaintiffs Zoe and Ashok were not compensated for their performances in sound recordings on the 2025 release. Throughout this time, Zoe and Ashok never signed or executed any agreement with Cradle regarding the use of their names and likenesses related to meet and greets. This one is really interesting. Plaintiff Lindseay Schoolcraft created certain copyright works, the sigils, Following the creation of the signals, Lindseay never granted the rights or otherwise authorized the use of the signals to Cradle of Filth. Cradle used and continued to use the signals in merchandise, artwork, and for other commercial uses without Lindseay's authorization. We're gonna go over that in more detail in a little bit, but yeah, they put that shit everywhere. Plaintiff Sasha Massacre performed in 2 music videos, synchronized the sound recordings, which Cradle organized, produced, and commercially exploited. What the fuck is going on here? This is all crossed out like somebody messed up their homework. It says, Cradle did not compensate Sasha Massacre for the performances in the music videos. Why is it all janky like this? Following Sasha's performance in the music videos, Cradle produced and sold merchandise featuring Sasha's likeness without any authorization. This is Sasha Massacre right on the thumbnail for their music video To Live Deliciously. She's pretty much the entire music video. The other video she was in is right here, Malignant Perfection, and they are right on the homepage for Cradle of Filth. This is the shirt in question, and there she is front and center. She is the entire selling point of this shirt that is still on their merch site that she apparently never authorized and never got paid for. So she did the music video that she did not get paid for and then starts seeing people wearing her face that she didn't authorize or get paid for either. After years of collaboration with Zoe and Ashok, Dani offered to enter into a contract with them regarding the exclusive rights to their likenesses and images, their performances and sound recording, and their rights regarding meet and greets. That was the contract that kicked all of this off. The collaboration and association between Zoe and Ashok and Cradle of Filth ended in or about August 2025 in a very dramatic way. Cradle of Filth did not compensate Zoe and Ashok for their final live performances with Dani and Cradle. Following the end of the collaboration and association with Zoe and Ashok, Dani and Cradle have continued to commercially exploit and profit from their likenesses and images. Following the end of the collaboration and association with Zoe, Ashok, Richard, and Lindseay, Dani and Cradle have continued to commercially exploit and profit from their performances and sound recordings. Following the end of the collaboration and association between all the plaintiffs and Cradle of Filth, Cradle have continued to commercially exploit and profit from all of their likenesses and images and merchandise. Following the departure of Zoe and Ashok, Dani and Cradle engaged in defamatory attacks on them, impugning their professional reputations in the music industry. I completely agree with that. He absolutely did. I think it's still on his Instagram. Defendant Danny Boy publicly stated that Zoe drank while pregnant, implying that Zoe's tragic miscarriage was caused by alcohol consumption. And then there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that I'm too dumb to understand, but if you go to page 17, factual background. Between 92 to 95 and 99 to 2014, Paul Allender composed, performed, and recorded with Cradle of Filth. Between 2013 and 2019, Lindseay composed, performed, and or recorded with Cradle of Filth. Between 2014 and 2022, Richard Shaw composed, performed with Cradle of Filth. 2014 to 2025, Ashok performed with Cradle of Filth. 2022 to 2025, Zoe performed with Cradle of Filth. Lindseay and Cradle never entered into any written or verbal contract or agreement authorizing the use of her copyrighted sigils. All of the plaintiffs never entered into any written or verbal contract regarding the use of their images or likeness in merchandise. That's fucking crazy. These are Lindseay's signals that she's accusing the band of using without her permission. On or about April 2014, Lindseay created a set of original graphic works, The Sigils. And as you'll see if you look at the Cradle of Filth merch, these are everywhere. This is extremely important. Lindseay Schoolcraft was issued a copyright certificate of resignation from the Canadian Intellectual Property Office for the signals. She had them copyrighted under her name. I think that is going to play a major role in this lawsuit. If these are her original works that she copyrighted and they are all over Cradle of Filth merch, I think Cradle of Filth is going to have to burn a lot of merch pretty soon. The sigils were first published in Ontario, Canada. Lindseay did not grant Cradle the right to use, copy, modify, display, create derivative works, license, or otherwise commercially exploit the sigils. Cradle of Filth have infringed on Lindseay Schoolcraft's rights to the sigils by copying and creating derivative works of the sigils in merch. An example in the lawsuit here on their merch, there's one right here, I think being sold as some sticker. On more t-shirts, there's one right here in the corner, there's another one right here. And now we get to my favorite part of the lawsuit, where old people in the court of Arizona are gonna have to read the words, "Jesus is a cunt" in court. There's another one right there. Go down here. There's one right there. Right next to the "Don't be a dick" stickers are the signals that they stole from their former keyboardist and profited off of. That's all they show in the lawsuit, but if you go to their merch store right now, they're everywhere. You have pretty much all of the signals right here on this long sleeve. Upon information and belief, Cradle of Filth have negotiated and entered licensing agreements with third parties to copy, create derivative works, and produce, manufacture, and sell the sigils. So without Lindseay's authorization at all, they've gone to third parties and created merch that they've kept all the money for. That's why I'm saying if she really does have those copyrighted, I think they're pretty fucked on that end. Next for the music videos. Plaintiff Sasha Massacre is a professional model whose work includes performing in music videos, performing at music festivals, horror conventions, and all that type of stuff. Cradle released a music video for Malignant Perfection, which featured her. They also released the music video for To Live Deliciously, which featured her. Sasha Massacre and Cradle of Filth never entered into any written agreement regarding her performances in the music videos. That seems weird to me. You just showed up on set and performed. There was no signing of anything at all. It was just, hey, go work. We promise we'll give you money. Cradle of Filth never paid Sasha Massacre for the performances in the music videos. Cradle began to produce, manufacture, and commercially exploit merchandise featuring her on them. You don't even get paid for the music video and then people are wearing your shirt. That's crazy. So yeah, you see your face on a Cradle of Filth shirt and at first that's really cool, but then you don't know how much they're charging for them. You're not part of the licensing agreements for it. You have no idea how much is actually being made on these shirts with your face on them, and you never see any of that money. But you do get $200 per gig eventually. Despite plaintiffs' requests, Cradle of Filth have repeatedly denied plaintiffs any access to accounting statements, sales records, and any licensing agreements pertaining to the merch. Cradle of Filth's refusal to seek permission, provide access to accounting statements, sales records, and any licensing agreements for the merchandise featuring their likenesses and images violates all of their publicity rights and allows Cradle to be unjustly enriched. Upon information and belief, Cradle intentionally did this to ensure no interference by the plaintiffs. Then it goes on to say that Zoe and Ashok are suing them for the meet and greets that they were forced to do that they were never paid for. And now we get to more cross out annoying shit. What the fuck is this? How come this isn't updated to just take out these things that are crossed out? We'll skip down to here since that is confusing and an eyesore. Plaintiffs Ashok, Lindseay Schoolcraft, and Richard Shaw never expressly authorized the release and or commercial exploitation of the 2017 album. Plaintiffs Ashok, Richard Shaw, and Lindseay Schoolcraft have not been compensated for their performances in the 2017 album. That's insane. At no point did the three of them waive their rights to any royalties. Cradle of Filth have continually denied them access to the full accounting of royalties earned from that album. This part we already went over in the previous video because it was the original lawsuit, but let's go over it again anyway because it's very important. In June of this year, Zoe and Ashok with Cradle and Dani entered into a publishing agreement with Peer Music. Upon information and belief, Oracle Management or its representative negotiated or facilitated the execution of this agreement. Defendant Oracle and Oracle representative Des Favre, who is the vocalist for Devil Driver, yes, he is the management behind Cradle of Filth, were not party to the publishing agreement and were not otherwise entitled to any royalties obtained thereunder. In July, Des Favre, on behalf of Oracle, sent a group message to the plaintiffs and other individuals performing with Cradle of Filth that each recipient had made £4,800, and after legal and commissions, each person actually made £3,400. The problem here is that management was never supposed to get any of that money. There was already an agreement between the musicians and the publishing company, and then the management snaked its way in and just stole 35%. And this is that. First message is from Dougal, who I guess is the bass player for Cradle of Filth currently, says, putting the other stuff to the side for a moment, can you please explain what you mean by commissions on our publishing money? Des from Devil Driver says, legal worked very hard, management worked very hard to get these monies, no one works for free, and indeed we here along with Tim worked 5-6 months. Is there a problem? Current Cradle of Filth bass player says, if you're saying that management is taking a cut of my publishing money, yes, there's a problem. That text has 2 thumbs up from other members of Cradle of Filth. Whoever's the originator of this text agrees, saying yes, that's a problem. Des says, what is the problem? Was I supposed to do these deals and all the work and only commission Dani? Regarding publishing, this took months and now it's done. You can invoice Ben now. You made $4,800, and after legal and commission, you all made $34. Please invoice. Dani took almost $5K less to give you all more and cover the legal and commission so far as he could. I'm sure you appreciate that and will thank him. But as we've come to find out, Dani is a goddamn tiny liar, so that's probably not even true. Also, no one has invoiced for $200 from the few meet and greets we did on our own. Please do so. Publishing only goes up because of PRs and shows. This was my favorite part of the exchange. I'm here to do the best for all of you and make things work, but if you persist on going down this road daily of asking why I'm taking more money from you guys, whilst on tour, and while we work out raises, then Dani is willing to go home now, as in tonight. I like to highlight that part because it shows that Cradle Filth was on tour with a show that night, with other shows lined up afterward, and Dani was willing to throw all of that away and go home and make up some bullshit reason about the electricity not working to cancel the rest of the shows because the other members of the band were asking why suddenly they're getting, what, $1,400 less than they were supposed to? What a biggity bitch. He said, so let's be professional. Let's have a good time on tour and allow the business side to work on these demands. Don't question why we're taking extra money for you. Just do the show or we're going home tonight. This part of the lawsuit is just entertaining. Apparently, Dani Filth broke one of Zoe's microphones, and if they're suing the band, they might as well get everything for it. Zoe exclusively and personally owned a G4 wireless handheld microphone system that is too fancy for me to pronounce, valued at over $1,000, and a set of Pro custom molded in-ear monitors, valued at over $1,500. On or about December 8th of last year, a tour manager took the hard case containing Zoe's microphone without consent or authorization. The tour manager was acting on behalf of Cradle of Filth and or Dani. The tour manager gave the microphone to Dani for use in his performance without Zoe's permission. Dani irreparably damaged the microphone, rendering it non-functional and unstable. So it's not just you that thinks his high voice is fucking horrendous, it's also audio equipment. Cradle never compensated Zoe for the microphone. Cradle never compensated Zoe for depriving her the use of the microphone. Zoe's in-ear monitors were kept in the same hard case. The case was never returned to her. Defendants either still possess them or have lost them entirely. Cradle never compensated Zoe for depriving her of the in-ear monitors. That one is just silly. Like, why? Why would you do that? So are you telling me you performed with a microphone and broke it and then never wondered whose it was? Then it mentions the defamation, as we said before. Dani's first statement on this whole ordeal was to paint Zoe out to be an abusive drunk who was causing fights and turmoil behind the scenes, and even her husband was crying on Tiny Dani's shoulders about how awful she was, but then just went back to her the next day. I think you're lying, Dani. And I've said in all of my videos covering this before, I am not blindly on Team Zoe, Team former Cradle or anything. I said over and over again, if someone sends me a video of Zoe being a drunk problem and doing all this, I will gladly post it and show you all. I've not seen one single tiny shred of evidence that she was ever a drunk abuser or caused any problems. Not one. In a post, Tiny Dani stated that Zoe and Ashok engaged in physical and verbal abuse. Zero evidence of that. Dani stated that Zoe and Ashok engaged in heated exchanges and a pattern of abusive behavior that strained the entire team. No evidence of that. In the post, Dani directly stated that Zoe consumed alcohol while pregnant, asking the loaded question, if Zoe was pregnant, why was she drinking at all? And if you look into old statements from other band members here, it turns out that every former member of Cradle of Filth used to be a drunk, crazy, abusive psychopath. What are the odds of that? Man, lawsuits are long and boring as fuck to read through. I'm saving you guys at least like 20 pages here. But the big question here, of course, is what the fuck do the Avengers of Filth want to come from this? Well, it says, plaintiffs respectfully request that this court enter a judgment against Cradle as follows. An order finding them liable for false designation of origin. That one I don't completely understand because I'm dumb and not a lawyer, so if someone else can make sense of that, feel free to explain it in the comments. An order finding Cradle liable for misappropriation of all plaintiffs' likeness and images. An order finding Cradle of Filth liable for copyright infringement of Lindseay Schoolcraft sigils. I honestly think that's going to be one of the biggest parts of this. An order issuing injunctive relief requiring Cradle to destroy and cease selling all sigil merch. Like I'm saying, they're going to have to burn a lot of merchandise. If you bought one of those shirts, hang on to it. It's going to be worth money soon. Injunctive relief, inquiring Cradle to destroy and cease selling any merchandise featuring all plaintiffs' likeness and images. An order finding Cradle of Filth liable for conversion of the audio equipment. I want to see in court Dani Filth have to walk up to Zoe and present a new microphone to her. An order finding Dani Filth liable for defamation. That should be easy. An order finding Cradle liable for unjust enrichment from commercial exploitation of Sasha's performances. An order finding Cradle liable for the unjust enrichment from the commercial exploitation of Ashok, Richard, and Lindseay in the 2017 album. An order finding Cradle liable for unjust enrichment from Ashok and Richard's performances. An order finding Cradle liable for unjust enrichment from the commercial exploitation of Ashok and Lindseay. An order finding Cradle liable for unjust enrichment from Ashok and Zoe. An order finding defendants liable for unjust enrichment from the commercial exploitation of all plaintiffs' likeness and images in merchandise and live performances. An order requiring Cradle of Filth to retract, remove, and correct all defamatory references to the plaintiffs. An award for compensatory damages, including damages for reputational harm, emotional distress, loss of income, business opportunities, and any other consequential damages. That one was already expensive when it was only 2 people, now it's 6. An award for punitive damages in the amount sufficient to deter Cradle from engaging in similar conduct in the future. I love that one, because that basically says pay all the former members the money that they're owed, plus extra, plus pay a very large tax for fucking around in the first place so that you probably don't do it again. And an award for attorney's fees and costs permitted by law, paying for everything, bitch. That is the current version of the lawsuit that is up right now. I wonder how Dani and Des are reacting. I really don't want to come at this from any place of bias, but they have given me 0 evidence to back up any of their claims, and literally every single other person has provided a lot of evidence. So, just saying. But what's really crazy about this lawsuit is that Cradle of Filth is not even that good of a band to have this much drama. Let's be honest here. It's not like, oh, they're such an incredible band, it's worth putting up with this piece of shit attitude and being ripped off because of just having my name in the legacy. They make spooky Halloween music for teenagers who shop at Spencer's in the mall. Come on. Going over the whole lawsuit, I think the people who have the most to gain from it are Lindseay and probably Ashok. I mean, everybody has stuff to gain from it. I think they're the 2 that have the most claims against the band. So what do you guys think of the lawsuit of Filth? It's pretty crazy how big it is now. I don't think anyone expected several former members to join in on it. I cannot wait to see what Des and Dani have to say about it. Now, I'm sure that all 6 of these people are abusive, drunk alcoholics who cause problems, and they're all planning this scheme together to bring down the great, epic mammoth that is Cradle of Filth. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If any lawyers are watching this, please let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't be a dick.
For more from me, check out my band Dark Insanity. You can find our debut EP, Rabid Psychosis, available now on all streaming platforms. We've got Wyatt's Metal and Dark Insanity merch available now in my shop. We've also got hoodies, hats, buttons, stickers. We even have Dark Insanity weed bags. Link is in the description of this video. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.